Hello, and welcome to Record of the Ear. I am your host, Ryan Lark, and this is a podcast all about me screaming my opinions into the void because, frankly, I have nobody else that wants to talk to me about it. Before we get started, I just wanted to talk about the format of this podcast because I don't think I ever have, which is weird, I guess. I just forgot to do it. But I'm going to take it, each album that I look at, go track by track and rate it out of 10. With 5 being the average for songwriting and recording. And that's, like, my opinions, obviously. So, I mean, yeah, it's just my opinions. That's the whole podcast. And then at the end, I'll rate the album as a cohesive unit out of 10. Add those 3 scores up and give it a score out of 30. Currently, the album that is reigning is Jolene by Dolly Parton, though there's only been 2, with a score of 24.4, which is not as high as I would think that the best one would be so far, but it is. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I really encourage you, before you listen to the episode, whatever album I'm talking about, I encourage you to go and listen to that beforehand, and then, or even go like track by track with me, and then afterwards listen to it again, just to see like if you agree, what your opinions are, if it helps you listen to the album in a different way and understand it in a different way. I think it'd give you an interesting way to look at it at least. But yeah. But without any further ado, the record of the ear for this week is The Otherside by Cam. I think her full name is Cameron Oakes, Ochs. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I believe it's Oakes. But this is her sophomore album, second album, and it's a country pop album. It's kind of interesting how I chose this album because it's, quite frankly, my favorite album of 2020. It came out in October 30th, although one of the singles, Diane, was released in 2017, which I guess I can get into. Basically, what happened was Cam was with a previous recording company. She was with Arista Nashville, and for whatever reasons, she parted ways and later signed with RCA Records, where she released The Otherside with. But the album was supposed to be originally released a lot earlier, probably in 2017 or 2018, but because of the switch to RCA Records, it was delayed. And she said in interviews that she's kind of glad in some ways, because a lot of the album would have been a lot different. It wouldn't have been what it became, what it is now. She added a lot of songs, even last minute, apparently. She said, I've watched a lot of interviews about this. I really enjoy this record. But yeah, just a little bit about it. So Cam herself has talked about how the album isn't... it's about internal work and not trying to portray a specific message. The album is... when I previously looked at albums, it's about telling a story. I like looking at what the album is trying to tell you, but this one obviously does not portray a specific message. You get more of common themes and more expressions and individual stories that a lot of people can relate to, rather than having, like I said, one continuous story or one common thread. It's just moments of someone's life, her life. The feel of this album is like a greatest hits compilation album type sorts. Because they are just all different stories, and they're good stories and from unique perspectives, but like it just has that feel of a compilation album a little bit, because the album itself doesn't have a common thread, I guess, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just at least not what I'm used to. So going ahead and getting right into it, I'll go ahead and start with track 1, titled Redwood Tree. Now this track is all about a conversation with a redwood tree that was in her parents' yard, and talking to her about her leaving for so long, and the tree was kind of always there, watching over her parents, being able to see them get old and unfortunately die, and realizing how much she missed out and almost wishing she was the tree or had the tree's experience of being able to be there with her parents. It's definitely a very sad song about regret, but it just has an amazing stripped down feel. It's her backup vocals and just some guitar laid over it. It's a really beautiful song, and it's a great way to start out the album, because I think regret and wanting to be with your parents and enjoy time with your family as you get older, very relatable to a lot of people. So I would definitely give it an 8 for songwriting and 7 for recording. The other thing about this album is that it has a lot of writers, not just Cam on it. And Redwood Tree, so I'll go ahead and name all the people as I go through the tracks that contributed to writing the song. Obviously, Cam wrote on almost all of these except for Changes, which ironically is my favorite. But so for Redwood Tree, the writers were Cameron Oakes, Cam, Tyler Johnson, and Anders Meriedsen. I apologize if I butcher any of those names. So the next track is the title track called The Otherside. It's written by Cam, Tim Bergling, Tyler Johnson, and Hillary Lindsay. It's all about a person who was treated poorly, and the person that treated them poorly comes crawling back, and tells Cam, or the narrator, all about how they've been treated poorly by another person. The narrator's just like, well, I mean, I've been there. I've been on the other side. I've dealt with that too. You did it to me. It's just a beautiful song. Her vocals sound incredible on it. It really showcases her vocals the best on this track, I think. Either that or Diane. But it's really an incredible song. The echoing vocals when she hits those high notes, singing The Other Side, it really gives you a picture in your head that she's like almost like laughing angrily at whoever she's talking to, and it just gives you that feeling that she's saying like, "Are you effing kidding me?" Like, the echoing feel makes me picture that at least, and it just gives it such a good depth of any more emotion of the song, which I really really enjoy. So I would give The Other Side a 7 for songwriting. I don't think it's like a incredibly innovative idea for a song, but the recording of it, I would definitely give it a 9 because it's really well done. So the next track is called Classic, and that is written by Cam as well as Jack Antonoff. And this song is really about nostalgia, and reminiscing about when you were younger and things were different. I don't love the message and the phrase, "they don't make them like this anymore," that she uses. It's just a very off-putting phrase to me because it comes across to me at least a bit condescending, depending on its use. But I mean, in this instance, I don't hate it. It just, again, that phrase in general is very off-putting because I find it incredibly annoying when people say stuff like that. But that being said, it's really fun and upbeat song that makes you want to like dance and just move around, gets you excited, and I just really like the use of horns and background vocals. Gives it a kind of like kooky, fun, crazy vibe. So for songwriting, I would definitely give it like a lower score, probably like a 3 or 4, just because that phrase really puts me off. But for recording, I would definitely give it like a 7. So the next track is Forgetting You, written by Cam, Tyler Johnson, Lori McKenna, and Mitch Rowland. And Forgetting You is about not being over someone from your past, even while you're with someone else. Everything kind of is reminding them of that other person, even while they're laying next to a different lover. It's a really interesting song because when she sings up high in her head voice, the phrase "forgetting you when I'm alone," it projects a feeling like she's on the verge of crying, which is it's really well done. It really emphasizes the lyrics. makes sense because you're more emotional, your voice does end up getting higher. And I think that's a really nice touch that she puts on it. And it just brings out, like I said, the emotion of that song. So I'd definitely give it a 6 for both songwriting and recording. Maybe a 7 or 6.5. I don't know. The next track is Like a Movie. And this is written by Cam, Hillary Lindsay, Lori McKenna, and Liz Rose. And this is an interesting story because she's talked about how the phrase like a movie comes from her husband, and it kind of goes with the story of the song. But apparently they went to Walmart High and got back, and they were giggling, and she just, like, on a whim asked him how he knew that she was the one for him. And without skipping a beat, he kind of just answered immediately, because when I met you, it was like a movie. Which, I mean, how adorable is that? I mean, that's how she knows he's the right one. So the song's all about finding the right person, and when you do, it just feels so different from anyone else you've ever been with. And it's a really sweet love song. Again, very, very well written, very well recorded. She does great vocals on it, great singing. So, I mean, love songs are nothing mind-blowingly different, but it's still a beautiful message. I definitely give it a 6 for both writing and recording. The next track on the album is titled Changes, written by Thomas Hull, Tyler Johnson, Lori McKenna, and Harry Styles, which I found interesting. Because I wouldn't picture at least a Harry Styles song being on a Cam track or a Cam album. But this song, this is my favorite song on the album. It's sad and nostalgic and about losing innocence. It's kind of the opposite of classic, where they're remembering bad things when your life changes, and about wanting to preserve those memories, but you can't because you no longer see them in the same way, and you're never going to be able to see them in the same way again. Her phrasing and vocals on this album, and the way she just broadcasts so much emotion through this song, and maybe it's because I just connect with it more than any other track on the album, but it's just a phenomenal track. The way the phrasing of "so I go," that lick is just, I mean, I don't know why I like that part in specific so much, but it's just fantastic. And a lot of people make the comparison that Diane is kind of a response to Jolene, which I'll talk about in a minute, but if that's true, then I would say that this track, Changes, is a response or similar to I Will Always Love You. The way it's told is through wanting to preserve the memory of that person in that place, and moving on so you don't get that soiled or think of them in a worse way. And that kind of relates to I Will Always Love You, because it's wanting to move on before things get worse, because you know you can't stay and it'll only get worse if you do. It's time to move on, basically, that same feeling. And I just enjoy that message and the way she does it so much. So I would definitely give this an 8 for songwriting and 9 for recording. The next track on the album is Till There's Nothing Left. It's written by Cam, Jeff Basker, Tyler Johnson, and Hillary Lindsay. And this song is about a passionate night with her lover, giving everything till there's nothing left. It's got a really hypnotic vibe that makes the song feel really passionate and almost whirlwind-esque. It's a fun song. It's an interesting song, and I enjoy it a lot because it's, again, that hypnotic vibe that emphasizes the emotion and the passionate feeling inside the song's lyrics. So I'd give it a 7 for songwriting and an 8 for recording. The next track on the album is What Goodbye Means. Written by Cam, Jeff Basker, Tom Kimmel, and Anders Moritzen. It's about going through divorce but still wanting to make it work. how you don't want the marriage to end, but the other person does, and then moving on. It really showcases her vocals very nicely. She does this thing with her vibrato that really brings out the emotion of the song. She does it in certain parts, and it adds like a, because you know how when you're nervous or you're upset and emotional, your voice starts to shake. I think that vibrato gives that feeling very nicely, and I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it definitely makes it more impactful. It's a great detail that adds a lot to the song. So I would definitely give it an 8 for both songwriting and recording. I just love the story about this song. The next song is called Diane, and it's written by Cam, Jeff Basker, and Tyler Johnson. This is a song that was released in 2017. A lot of people compare it to the response of Jolene, told from the perspective of Jolene to Diane, who I guess Diane is the wife, the girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, and she's the other woman. It's about being the other woman and then finding out you are and being mournful and sorry for it and trying to tell that person and help them instead of getting angry at them for some reason. It's upbeat and catchy and has really good vocals on it. I mean, the first note and the first word, Diane, she's belting, and it's incredible and just sounds amazing. It's obviously been a huge hit for her, and is one of her most popular songs. I would definitely give it an 8 for songwriting and 7 for recording. I don't know. The first time I heard Diane, I definitely immediately thought, "Oh my God, this sounds like it could be the sister to Jolene," and I think that's just such a fun way of writing. And I guess I've never heard if or found anything if that was intentional or not. She was writing it in response to that. But I just got to thinking, I was like, I wonder if anyone would ever make like a response album, like a whole album that's like the antithesis of someone else's album, like in homage almost. I don't know if anyone's ever done that. I also don't know if any record company would put out something like that because it seems a little crazy and a waste of time, but also it'd just be fun and interesting, like especially for something like Jolene that I talked about last time. But such a great story. If someone could match that, which Diane obviously does, and I think Changes also matches that as well, I think it'd just be a really interesting idea to listen to those both back to back and hear the story and back and forth between the two. I think that'd be so cool. But anyway, the next track is called Happier For You, written by Cam, Mitch Rowland, and Sam Smith, another artist that I didn't think would be writing a song for a Cam album. The song is about not being over someone, but still having to see them on a, like, I don't know, I guess semi-regular basis. Particularly the song takes place at a wedding, that person's wedding. It's got a very country and hometown feel to it, which is, again, weird that it's a Sam Smith song. And there's this one lick, like guitar lick after the first chorus that I just think is so cool and such a nice touch. It's a fun song, but sad also, obviously, because it's about not being over someone, but having to go through the pain of seeing them with someone else. And I get the feeling that they all, like, the husband, the wife, or soon to be husband and wife, and the person from the story it's told perspective all know that she's not over that guy, and she's still invited, and the wife is okay, I guess, with her being there. I don't know. It's a little weird, but like also a really interesting song. So I'd give it a 7 for both songwriting and recording. The final track on the album is called Girl Like Me, written by Cam and Natalie Hemby. It's about the loss of a friend and feeling like you're giving up, going into a depressive episode because of something someone did or something happened. I also think of it as like the fallibility of people and giving up on someone, abusing substances, and I don't know, just like I said, the general fallibility of everyone and how things happen to everyone. You can't let that stop you from living and moving on. I don't know if she's ever said it, but this song, I think, is written about her parting ways with Arista Nashville and trying to fall in love with music again, because I bet it took, I don't know if it was under good terms or what, but I doubt it would be under good terms because I know anyone would want to leave their recording studio. But I'm sure she had to learn how to fall in love with music again. I'm sure it was painful to even write about or touch an instrument again. Um, and then moving on and finding better things with RCA Records probably helped inspire her to write this song. Or maybe she wrote it before RCA Records as a kind of catharsis and her process of getting her emotions out. I really like the songwriting in this. It's again another stripped down song, and she, it's almost like she's talking to someone else, but also giving herself advice and telling her story. Um, it's a really sweet and sad song, which is why it's a nice way to close the album out, because it's a very bittersweet album where you got a lot of songs talking about a lot of heavy topics, but also there's like some sweet songs in there, like Till There's Nothing Left, like a movie, but you also have Redwood Tree, um, Changes. Even Diane's like bittersweet because a woman, yes, is being cheated on, but also she's finding out and hopefully leaving in the end. And it's women helping women, which is always good. So I would give it a 7 for writing and 6 for recording. So just as a whole about this album, I already talked a lot about it. Not a lot. I talked a little bit about it. But it's, again, it's not a cohesive, continuous album telling a story that I usually enjoy. But it obviously has common themes and a little bit of a common thread through it that makes it make sense that it's an album in itself. I think the songwriting is absolutely tells a unique story, has a unique perspective. It's not just repeating the same old regurgitated stories everyone's told before. It has different perspectives. And the recording, I think, is something that really lifts and enhances the lyrics, which is always what you want. And I think that's the purpose of music, is to take stories and to take written word and bring it to life and enhance it, not just lay any old rhythm, lay any old lyric down and sing it any way. There's obviously better ways to tell a story, and telling it through song, telling it through a certain style and with different emphasis will make it a better story and make it a more impactful and emotional story that reaches people. And I think that's something that she really succeeds on in this album. She has a way of knowing how to bring the words to life. Like the echoing vocals in The Other Side, where it sounds like she's angry and scoffing at that guy. Like in Forgetting You, when she goes in high in her head voice, and it sounds like she's on the verge of tears. It adds an extra flair and element to it that takes it from good to great, or great to exceptional, depending on how you like the album. But I just think it's such a fantastic album, and while it's not as cohesive and not a continuous story being told that I usually enjoy, I still really did enjoy the album. So I definitely give the album as a whole, I guess 7, 8. So I guess I'm gonna give it a 7.5. So overall, averaging out all of the songwriting scores, you get a 6.9. And then averaging out all of the recording scores, it comes out to 7.2. And overall, I give the album a 7.5, I said. So adding those three together, it comes to 21.6. Which unfortunately does not beat out Jolene. So Jolene is still in the lead as far as that goes. Will something surpass it? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. This was my favorite album of 2020 and it didn't even come close. Well, I guess it came a little close. But still. A few points away. Probably because of the cohesive of the album. But, I mean, when you're competing with Dolly Parton, it's hard to win with that. My final thoughts on the album. Go out and listen to it. Support Cam. She's an incredible artist. She an incredible songwriter, songstress, I guess you could say. I don't know. Songwriter, musician, artist, whatever you want to call her. She's incredible and she deserves all the support in the world. I hope this gets nominated for a Grammy this year, next year. I don't know. I don't even know when the Grammys are. I think they're sometime this month. Maybe I'll do an episode about it. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I mean, she's an incredible... This is only her second album. She's already doing this well. This is incredible. And your second album is usually one of the harder ones. So, props to you, Cam. So yeah, go ahead and re-listen to the album. Give me your final thoughts and all your thoughts on whatever I said and all my opinions. I'm sure I don't even remember half the things I said, but... If you want to let me know your opinions, feel free to leave a comment when you rate and review the podcast, please and thank you. And go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Record of the Ear Podcast. And feel free to message me or leave a comment on the post for this episode talking about what you thought of the album, what you thought of my comments. If you have any other interesting things you want to share, feel free to. I would love to hear it because, again, as I always say, I have no one that wants to talk to me about these things. So, yeah. Well, I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and